Do you see this one?
That was good. And there was some shooting thing in some mall in Michigan, and nobody's died. I'm sure we'll hear it here in a few minutes.
I did that one, but I didn't get these. I used too light of a pencil on.
Positive for COVID-19. What we're learning. Pfizer, now the first company to seek FDA emergency approval for a COVID vaccine. Who would get it first and when? It comes as the U.S. sees the worst numbers yet. A record 185,000 new cases in a single day. Deaths reaching 2,000 a day for the first time since May. A record 80,000 hospitalized. Tonight, new crackdowns and curfews. And Rachel Maddow revealing her partner's battle with COVID-19, her powerful message. President Trump making his first public appearance in a week, falsely claiming he won the election. The president inviting Michigan Republicans to the White House. Did he pressure them to overturn his defeat? But late today, the state of Georgia making it official for President-elect Joe Biden as he celebrates his 78th birthday. And long lines as Americans defy CDC warnings not to travel this Thanksgiving.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. There are two breaking stories as we come on the air this evening. Late word, the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., has tested positive for COVID-19 and a developing situation near Milwaukee where several people have been shot at a shopping mall. Let's get straight to the news about the president's son with Hallie Jackson. Hallie, what do you know?
Lester, this is just happening as we're coming on the air. A spokesperson for the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., says he tested positive for the coronavirus at the start of this week. He's been quarantining ever since then as a result. We're told he is asymptomatic, he has no symptoms, and is following all medically recommended COVID guidelines, again, according to his spokesperson. The president's son, of course, made frequent appearances for him on the campaign trail and was at that election night party in the East Room of the White House earlier this month. With his positive test, this now brings the total number of people connected to the White House or Trump campaign who have tested positive for the coronavirus to 49, Lester. All of it as the pandemic continues to worsen across the country. Lester.
Hallie Jackson with that late word from the White House. Thanks. Now that breaking news near Milwaukee, the shooting at a shopping mall. Witnesses describe hearing as many as a dozen shots, and ambulances were seen transporting apparently injured people from the scene in Wauwatosa. NBC's Shaq Brewster is there.
Shoppers scrambling after rounds of shots were fired inside a suburban Milwaukee mall.
It was more than 10 shots, it was more than 10 shots, for sure.
Dozens of police officers and SWAT teams swarming the mall after reports of an active shooter, terrifying shoppers and store employees.
Yeah, I don't think he's
Sheltering
been
in place,
apprehended
some
yet.
running for the exits.
Everybody started screaming, and I saw a lot of people running. I just ran as fast as I could out the door.
First responders
Which I would have done
numerous
too.
victims to safety on stretchers.
7 injured adults and 1 injured teenager were transported to the hospital by Wauwatosa Fire Department. The extent of their injuries is unknown at this time. Everybody was alive at that time, though, so there's not been any fatalities that I'm aware of.
Police describing the shooter as a white man in his 20s or 30s.
Still a very active scene behind me as officers work to clear the mall and begin gathering evidence. The mayor of Wauwatosa saying tonight that the shooter is still at large. Lester?
All right, Shaq Brewster tonight for us. Thank you. Drug giant Pfizer requested emergency authorization today for its COVID vaccine, which it claims is 95% effective. Tom Costello has late details.
It's shaping up to be the fastest vaccine development in U.S. history.
After 44,000 volunteers rolled up their sleeves, Pfizer today became the first drug company to seek emergency FDA authorization for a COVID-19 vaccine.
We will continue the work already underway to make sure we can begin shipping the vaccine immediately after authorization or approval.
Vaccine maker Moderna also expected to submit its data soon, putting both companies on track for FDA clearance.
Within weeks, we could have a decision from FDA, and within 24 hours of that, we will have started distributing millions of doses of safe and effective vaccine to begin protecting our most vulnerable across America.
Here are 5 key steps to authorization. The vaccine trials include at least 30,000 people who are diverse in race, age, and risk groups. The FDA requires 2 months of follow-up safety data before drug makers can even submit for emergency use. Side effects typically appear in the first 2 months. So far, both companies report no serious side effects. Both Pfizer and Moderna claim their vaccines are 95% effective. The question, will they completely prevent a COVID-19 infection? And how long will that protection last? The FDA's advisory panel will convene on December 10th to review the Pfizer data. Then the FDA will vote on whether to approve it. Meanwhile, a CDC advisory group will recommend who should get vaccinated first.
Highly efficacious and effective vaccines have crushed epidemics like smallpox and polio and measles. We can do that.
The FDA expects to have enough doses to begin vaccinating 20 million people by year's end, starting with healthcare workers. The general public likely following in the spring or summer. All right, now Tom joins us. Tom, there are even more vaccines coming down the pike in the new year. Yeah, AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson both expect to have their vaccine candidates ready in the first quarter. The military is already planning the distribution for all of this. Within 24 hours of approval, it plans to start shipping the vaccine to all 50 states. It's a big logistical challenge. Yeah, and Tom, a vaccine can't come fast enough as more than 2,000 Americans died from COVID in a single day for the first time since May, and the number hospitalized set a record at more than 80,000. Miguel Almaguer on new restrictions and also resistance.
After another record-breaking day of new COVID infections, our nation is on pace to add up to 46,000 deaths by mid-December. With every state reeling, today a growing number are implementing new restrictions. In Pennsylvania, out-of-state visitors must get a COVID test. Maryland capping capacity at churches and businesses. Colorado adding new restrictions and earlier closures.
Stop socializing outside of your household. Wear a mask when you're around others.
Here in California, a limited stay-at-home order goes into effect tomorrow. In Los Angeles County, there's more daily infections than in many states.
But despite the national numbers and plea for help from frontline workers, some still refuse to implement change.
You will see this if you visit the hospitals and see firsthand how your current strategy is not working.
This weekend, Oklahoma's governor plans to attend a college football game, then flout CDC recommendations and spend Thanksgiving with his elderly parents.
I think Oklahomans should be with their loved ones over Thanksgiving. Let's be safe about it.
Even with precautions, the virus is finding far too many Americans. MSNBC's Rachel Maddow says at one point she feared she would lose her partner Susan of 21 years.
Whoever you most love and most care for and most cherish in the world, that's the person who you may lose.
In North Dakota, for Mark Winkleman, that person was his father Norman.
I was proud of him.
His last words to his dad came over the phone.
I told him I loved him, and that we will miss him.
Tonight, a final goodbye for far too many families. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
Yeah, too many goodbyes. With so many getting sick, the situation is becoming more desperate by the day for the nation's hospitals, with growing shortages of beds and caregivers. With more on that, here's Gabe Gutierrez.
Tonight, a brutal reality in the war against COVID. 1 in 5 U.S. hospitals is facing a staffing shortage.
We can turn areas that aren't hospital areas into hospital areas, but if we don't have the people to take care of the patients, it doesn't matter.
Since the pandemic began, an army of traveling nurses has rushed in. First to New York City, where they were cheered daily. Then to other hot spots.
When I was in New York, people seemed a lot more supportive of healthcare workers.
Right now, traveling nurse Lauren Wildeboer is in South Texas in a COVID unit.
A lot of people say that COVID is a hoax, that masks don't work, that masks are politicized. It's frustrating trying to correct people.
Throughout the country, there are 40 to 50,000 traveling nurses taking on assignments. But now, during the pandemic, they're in demand like never before. According to Trusted Health, a nursing job posting site, the nurses' fees are now twice as much as pre-COVID levels. Right now, there are thousands of open jobs.
The supply of nurses is being tapped out. They're on assignment doing the heroic work that they've been doing for the now 9 months. The front lines are seeing death daily.
With North Dakota allowing infected but asymptomatic workers to treat COVID patients, 60 Air Force nurses are now headed to that state as backup.
We're tired, we're physically and emotionally exhausted, we're pretty much at our breaking point.
For this latest wave, the most dire shortage nationwide is not always beds, ventilators, or protective gear. It's people. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Des Moines, Iowa.
A big defeat for President Trump tonight as he tries to overturn Joe Biden's victory. Georgia certifying that Biden did in fact win that state. Meanwhile, the president's meeting with Michigan lawmakers is making headlines tonight. NBC's Peter Alexander has more.
With his legal challenges repeatedly failing and key states starting to certify Joe Biden's win, President Trump tonight again falsely claiming victory during a briefing on drug prices.
The Big Pharma ran millions of dollars of negative advertisements against me during the campaign, which I won, by the way, but, find that out.
Those his first public comments in a week, coming as Georgia tonight certified that President-elect Biden narrowly won the state.
He's such a delusional asshole.
As Secretary of State, I believe that the numbers that we have presented today are correct.
As part of his unprecedented effort to bypass the vote count, President Trump tonight's eyeing Michigan, where Biden leads by more than 150,000 votes. The president summoning Republican state leaders to the White House, confronted by protesters when they arrived in D.C. The lawmakers in a statement tonight did not say whether the president pressured them to overturn the results based on unproven claims of fraud and voting irregularities, but said they would uphold Michigan law, requiring the state's electoral votes go to the winner of the popular vote. This tonight from Biden's legal advisor.
Of course, it's an abuse of office. It's an open attempt to intimidate election officials. It's absolutely appalling.
The White House says it will not discuss a transition until the president's legal challenges to the election are resolved.
234 pages of affidavits publicly available in one county alone. These are real claims. These individuals deserve to be heard.
But as of tonight, 24 of the 35 legal challenges by the president and local Republicans have already been denied, dismissed, settled, or withdrawn, according to an NBC News count. Republican Mitt Romney, a frequent Trump critic, accusing the president of trying to subvert the will of the people. But most Republicans have not pushed President Trump to concede, even as President-elect Biden turning 78 today met with Democratic leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
In my Oval Office, you're mi casa, you casa.
And tonight, a person close to President Trump tells NBC News the president knows he lost but wants to make the Democrats' transition into the White House as difficult as he claims they made his. Lester?
Peter Alexander at the White House. Let's talk now about the challenge for
He's
families.
a cruel, vindictive motherfucker is what he is. He's an asshole. He should be dead. He should be dead. It should cut his head off right in the White House.
Welcome to the holiday rush 2020 style.
Everybody seems to be getting tested.
Anxious Americans lined up in Los Angeles, Illinois, and Philadelphia for COVID tests before Thanksgiving. In mid-Michigan, the wait up to 5 hours at Sparrow Health System's drive-through site.
So if someone wants to get a test in order to go home for Thanksgiving, when do they need to have that test done by?
They need to have that test swabbed by Sunday, Monday at the latest.
In Michigan, the number of daily tests is up 100% since October 1st. Sparrow now prioritizes results.
The average wait time for an asymptomatic test this week is probably in the range of 3 to 4 days. And the average wait time for an ICU patient is 4 hours.
If you want to get tested before Thanksgiving, remember the PCR test is the most accurate, but results take longer, at least 24 hours. Rapid tests offer results in 15 minutes, but they're not as accurate and can produce false negatives. But even with a negative test, the nation's COVID testing czar told Andrea Mitchell it is not a free pass.
But that negative test today does not mean you're going to be negative tomorrow or the next day, and certainly not by Thanksgiving.
It is only a snapshot of that moment in a dangerous and deadly time. Ann Thompson, NBC News.
A major victory for a New Jersey federal judge whose son was murdered outside her home. Esther Salas's family was ambushed in July. Her 20-year-old son Daniel was killed and her husband was injured. Today, Salas was there as New Jersey's governor signed Daniel's law, which protects the personal information of judges.
With today's bill signing, I believe, symbolically, Daniel is doing what he did for his father and I. He is protecting the lives of countless judicial officers.
Police say the gunman who killed Salas's son, a self-described anti-feminist lawyer, took his own life. In just 60 seconds, despite the warnings, millions are still planning to travel. How to stay safe, coming up next.
Well, we all knew Trump was going to do something. I mean, he would just, you know, so...
Yeah. But for him to say flat out, for them
Smooth
to say
driving
he's
pays
going to
off.
make it difficult.
With Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you save.
Hasn't he heard two wrongs don't make a right?
He doesn't care. He's a cruel, vindictive asshole is what he is. I really think there should be a trial. If he's found guilty, I think they should build a gallows right there on the White House lawn and hang him. I mean, and just cut his head off and then leave the gallows as a monument to don't fuck up when you're on this, when you live in the White House.
Holiday travel, how do you reduce the risks if you do decide to fly? Blaine Alexander with what you need to know.
The warnings are clear and critical. Stay put. The CDC urging Americans not to travel this holiday season. But if these crowded airport lines are any indication, many won't listen.
We're going to see at least a 10% decline over bus, over car, over plane.
But it's not stopping everybody from traveling.
You know, unfortunately, it's not stopping everybody. And
airlines are making it easier to make last-minute changes, many waiving fees, and in some cases allowing you to use the value of your ticket. Delta will block middle seats through March, Southwest until December.
It was a really difficult decision.
Kate Cohen decided to downsize her 16-person Thanksgiving to a table for 4 and wrote a Washington Post column urging others to do the same.
No matter what we did, no matter how carefully we planned, we were raising the risk to my parents, to everybody in all of our lives.
If you do travel, the CDC says make sure that your mask has at least 2 layers. Know the quarantine rules for where you're going, then isolate and test on both sides. Still, experts say the best way to stay safe, stay at home. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Atlanta.
Up next for us tonight, the growing alarm over super spreader events, the danger even if you reduced that guest list.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I still think the day will come where it might, like Obama said something today about it, that the Navy SEALs will get him out of there if necessary.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that.
I think
if he took it that far. Oh my God.
Well, I don't know.
Melania will leave and he'll still be there. She'll be going, come on, you asshole.
Well,
That would be such a disgrace. Ugh.
well, like I keep saying, you know, in his trial, he's going to plead insanity and then cite all this stuff as proof of his insanity.
Oh yeah, his lawyers are probably working on it already.
Well, several big shot law groups have told him like they're done.
Really?
Yeah, Giuliani is one of the few that are still with him, and he's he's as stupid as a rock, really. But he's there. I saw something where he was asking for $20,000 a day to.
Wow.
So if somebody's paying me $20,000 a day, I'd act pretty stupid for you too.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is. I think that's Ashton's.
That's mine.
Is it?
Why would Ashton have a sock here?
I don't know, but this looks.
They stretch.
They're sticking to something.
No, it's mine. Oh, so pretty.
Well, it's just clearly going to be one of the weirdest holiday seasons ever.
Got another letter about taking the car and to have that airbag.
Yes.
Huh?
I know.
Chasing. Trying to stop him. Home park. The car lost control and plunged into a pond. Deputies and bystanders rushed in and were able to save the man driving, a woman, and 2 children. Also tonight, as experts urge us not to gather for Thanksgiving, we're still seeing events like weddings turn into super spreaders. Sam Brock with what some couples are doing to celebrate responsibly.
Despite skyrocketing COVID cases blanketing the country, events with large crowds continue to pop up. The latest, a concert this week at Victory Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, drawing thousands as the state struggles to find hospital beds for COVID patients. Tonight, more proof even smaller scale events like weddings can have serious consequences. A recent Ohio reception with 83 guests linked to 32 positive cases. A 300-person celebration in Washington State connected to at least 40 infections and counting.
Many people don't believe that you can actually catch it from your family and friends. They feel safe when they're around people that they know.
Yeah.
Vogue magazine says they removed a
Well,
spread
and I think that's the one where like
Martha's Vineyard wedding.
176 people tested or were positive, and then some of those died, and of people they knew, and none of them were at the wedding.
Many couples now proceeding cautiously, like the Youngs in Pittsburgh, with fewer guests and color-coded wristbands for dancing and socializing.
It was easy to tell who would be comfortable with you coming up to them and who was like, oh, I'm more hesitant towards that.
Many soon-to-be newlyweds now forced to adjust expectations,
can't
waiting to say
frickin'
I do
wait
until it's
to do
safe
a
to do so.
wedding.
Sam Brock, NBC News.
Up next for us tonight, Christmas trees fit for 2020 and inspiring America.
That one cracked me up.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Christmas. Oh, I see a Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. Lights.
Let's see that.
Numbers explode across our state, how contact tracing is desperately trying to keep up. And amid new restrictions, the governor announces help for small businesses. Next on King 5 News.
Finally, a symbol of the season that captures perfectly how so many of us feel in 2020. Here's Kevin Tibbles.
We're all a bit bedraggled stumbling into the holidays.
It looked like it was just totally falling apart and had holes in it.
So pause a moment to celebrate Cincinnati's 2020 Christmas tree. Yes, this 65-foot Norway spruce is misshapen and sparse, but it's here, loud and proud.
I actually didn't understand how a tree could look like that.
Even spruced up, no pun intended, it's the picture of pandemic perseverance.
It's a little bit of a late bloomer, so maybe that's what 2020 is. It's just a late bloomer.
And it's a reminder of our constant downtrodden pal, Charlie Brown, and his threadbare conifer. And Charlie won the day.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
So as this year to forget stumbles towards its end, we can still celebrate, just 6 feet apart.
We're gonna have a great big tree for Christmas.
Maybe this wonky tree doing the best it can represents all of us this year. Kevin Tibbles, NBC News.
Oh my goodness, the stories we will tell about this year someday. That's Nightly News for this Friday. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm
If you
Lester.
live.
Please take care of yourself and each other. Have a great weekend.
Now then.